Again for part 2 of the MLP Volt Absorb Power Rankings. Let's get straight back into this. Starting off with our 7th team. We got Silent here, and his Silent Wall Breakers. This team, I think I said at the end of my week 1, as the end of my part 1 power rankings, this is my opponent for week 1, so I probably know the most about this team. Yeah, this team looks terrifying. We've got Dwebble Minchino, really good sweepers, great cleaners for late game. You got Spritzy, I think is the best fairy in the format, like hands down. Also just a really strong Gloomon for a team. Foongus, I'm really not a fan of Foongus, but I can sort of see what it does here. Although, I don't know, it's a bit weird. I guess he needed the water. Actually, yeah, Foongus is a bit weird on this team. Trapinch trapping those steel types that give Dwebble some problems. I guess also rock types. Yeah, not too sure about that one. Didn't actually realize he had Trapinch at first. Also Wynaut, so we got double trapping. Wynaut's just historically not a very good mon. Really at all. In Little Cup, I have really never seen it do work. Voltorb, on the other hand, though, I like Voltorb. I think it's fast. It hits at 20 speed, which, if you remember me in the first part, saying that's a really phenomenal number to hit, because very few things hit it. He's got one of the mons that can speed tide smash Dwebble. Yeah, so it's really good. Hoot Hoot is a low tier remover, not terrible, not amazing. Tinted Lens Hurricanes can be nice if you actually land, and if you actually outspeed to be able to get them off. But yeah, that thing's going to be coming. If it comes, it's probably going to defog and then die. That's about it. Dreepy, not bad for 1 point. It clicks Draco. That's pretty much about all it does. It's Draco, and then it gets like 4 other moves. But it does hit the 18 speed tier. Yeah, it does hit the 18 speed tier, so it's not bad. Going back to our Fighting, Flying, and Dark Core, this team actually has none of those. And so that's one huge drawback for this team. Fighting types are really great at breaking teams. As I said, fairies aren't really that common. Good poisons, there's really not too many. Good psychics, pretty much all the fighting types get knockoff, and with a prevalence of knockoff, a bulky psychic isn't as strong as it is in standard. But yeah, so missing out on that is a huge loss for this team. No flying type means that Earthquake spam against this team is actually phenomenal. Well, actually, we do have a flying type, but it's not very... It's a Hoot Hoot. Hoot Hoot's not coming a lot, and given the fact that his grass doesn't resist ground, his bug doesn't resist ground, it's... Hoot Hoot is your only ground resist, and that's going to come unstuck when you play teams that have a really good ground type and some coverage for Hoot Hoot if, for some reason whatsoever, it does decide to come. No dark type means that psychics are scary. Yes, you've got Dwebble to break psychics, but that's really it. If Dwebble goes down, then a bulky psychic can set up and just kind of win. Yeah, on the plus side though, Dwebble is the best Smash mon in format. Sturdy Smash, I'm sure something that you are all very well familiar with. Phenomenal Minchino with... Even though it's only got the 50 attack, it does hit 18 speed, and it does get Skilling's Tail Slap. If your opponent doesn't have a Ghost, or doesn't have a great Rock or Steel type, you can just run through teams. Multi-hit moves in Little Cup are so strong. Yeah, so Minchino's really good. Magby, that hits 19 speed. 19 speed at that 83 mark. Great attack and special attack. Downside is 37 defense, 45 HP. Doesn't take physical moves great. It got flame body, so like it can sort of maybe switch on like a physical fire type attack or like physical grass type. I don't know, switch in on something and it resists, maybe get that health back with a berry juice, and then hope for like a flame body burn. Niche scenario, it does get Mark Punch, priority is really nice in Little Cup. Trapinch, it does now have first impression, I do believe, which is huge for it. A lot of the time Trapinch did struggle because it was slower than pretty much everything it trapped. I think it's one of the slowest mons in the format. Obviously being base 10 speed, it does speed tie with a few other things. Why not? Not a fan. Shellos is nice because it has the ability Sticky Hold, so if you give that in a Violet, It's not going to be able to be knocked off, but it does get boosted damage from knockoff, so a bit of a double-edged sword there, but no, it's pretty nice. Storm Drain, also really good facing against water types. You look at this team, water types can be a little bit of a problem, maybe. You do have Fungus, though, so not overly. And then Sand Force, which, if you play a Hippopotas, can be kind of nice. I've run that once before. Voltorb we've spoken about, but yeah. So on the surface of things, looks really scary, but there's a few critical flaws, and I am recording this a couple days after I did part 1, so I'm just going to look at my other ranking. I'm going to give this a 7.5. I think it's sort of on par with some of the other teams, but not amazing. So moving on, now I actually did write down the order which I want to do these teams in, so look at me being all prepared. We got Parko next, and while that does load in, there we go. We got the Charleston Gefables. So this is the team that you've seen up on the matchup finder for everyone so far. It's the Wingull, Grookey, Magnemite, Croagunk, Cranidos, Flabebe, Chimchar, Gible, Fomantis, and yeah, that's it. There's no last mon. That's a waste of space. If you ever prep for Snom, like, you're ridiculous. Looking at this team, first off, Wingull, very fast. Dual stabs are impossible to switch into. There is one check to this mon, and it is Chinchou with water absorb. But then you U-turn, and like your Chinchou takes chip, and yeah, it's just not fun. Grookey is a phenomenal mon. I'm pretty sure it got glide. If it did, that's horrifying to try and think of prep for. Magnemite, Sturdy Juice Mag is one of the best sets. Analytic Scarf. Magnet Pool is like really niche, just because there's really no steals in the format. But yeah, really nice. Croagunk's a bit underwhelming as a fighting type. I've seen one or two people use it really nice, but that's on a team that's like very specifically designed for Croagunk, and I just don't see this team being that. It does have the pivots in like Wingull and Grookey, and I think Chimchar can all U-turn. I don't know Chimchar too well, and you got Mag can Volt Switch, so you can get it in fairly easily, but just everything has coverage for Croagunk. That's one of the things that I'll find. Yeah, Croagunk's more of a one-and-done mon, but then again, it's not terrible. It can be run physically or specially. It's got enough bulk to be able to like do something dry skin. It's a water immunity, so that takes pressure off like Grookey and Wingull switching into Scalds, which neither of them really want to do. Grookey being a physical attacker and Wingull having base 30 defense. Cranidos is a mon that I've been wanting to try for a long time, and I've never drafted it. It has one good set, and that is a Scarf set, because it's just not fast enough. Unless you get like webs up or something, but this team doesn't have webs. Scarf Cranidos with the rock type moves, and then its coverage looks terrifying to play against with that 125 attack, plus sheer force, so rock slide is boosted to, I think, like mid-80s power. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, Flabebe it's a bit of a sort of mon. Fairies you really want to be checking those fighting types with, but this is a fairy with base 39 defense and 44 HP. A completely useless ability. But yeah, it can also do some things. I've seen Flabebe sweep. So yeah, it's not the worst. Chimchar, it sets rocks, it pivots out, it's got Iron Fist for like Fire Punch. I don't really know too much about Chimchar, never really used it. It's alright. Gible is one of in my opinion, Gibble's one of the worst ground types in Little Cup in terms of value for points, because it's slow, it's not very bulky, it's got okay attack, its dual stabs are nice, but you're always taking a hit, and it's just rough skin is it seems nice, and in a niche matchup, maybe when he goes up against the the Minchino team, then we can see rough skin Rocky Helmet against that Minchino, and that'll be the niche time. But I think Gibble is one of the worst value for points mons. Every time I see it, I want to move it down to -4. Fomantis, nice mon, but without hidden power, it can't really hit like anything that resists grass. Also, it's a double grass on this team, so you really, with Cranidos being so frail, you're really putting a lot of pressure on Magnemite to switch into flying types here. Yeah, because you've got you got 3 weaknesses there, and you've only got the 1 resist in Magnemite. Because I'm not counting Cranidos, it's got 39. It's got 40 defenses. So yeah, no Dark type. No Dark type is a problem for this, because this team, with Cranidos out the way, a Psychic type that clicks Calm Mind can kind of just win here. It's got to contend with Grookey. Yes, Grookey and Train is terrifying, but if you can contend with that and you can like run that, you've got your like a Stockpile set or a what's one of the Cosmic Power set. And just win a game against this team. And I think Dark is one of the most important types to have. Having said that, I think this team is quite nice still. I'm actually going to give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's almost up there as one of the best teams, but no Dark type. And really those last 3 mons leave a lot to be desired. I think if maybe drop those last 3 mons, make a couple transactions. Yeah, he does have 10, so he can drop those last 3 for 2. Maybe get yourself a Dark type, get yourself... I'm not too sure what I'd pick up, but I'd look at some transactions, and I think this team could be a real top-tier contender. We got Alec next. Alec, the Ghastly Pawniard team. I remember seeing this in draft, and this is a really nice team. This is a team that I am very fond of, personally. I've won a championship with Pawniard. I used Pawniard with Hazard Stack and I think Sandygast to spin block, so you could come in on a lot of defogs, get that +2, and just like go to town. No hidden power means Pawniard's great. Well, even more broken. Ghastly is a really phenomenal pairing for it, because although it's not the best fighting switch in, because it has 30 HP, 30 defense, and 35 special defense, if you can predict that fighting type attack, go into your Ghastly, you've got Ghastly in for free, and Ghastly in for free against any team is terrifying, because 9 out of 10 times their normal type is going to be offensive, so a Sludge Wave is going to do so much damage. It's got great coverage, it hits 18 speed, but yeah, it's really good. Now, Meowth. Meowth is my favourite Little Cup mod. It is phenomenal. Fake Out plus Feint can do pretty much it does over half, I think, to any mon that doesn't resist it in the tier. Technician boosted Fake Outs are super strong. Technician boosted special moves like Water Pulse and Shockwave to get coverage. Most of the time, because steals are so scarce, rock types are going to be the ones that resist you the most. Not hidden power, water pulse against those rock types is going to do so much, because rock types very rarely have good special defense. It gets U-turn, it gets knockoff, it just gets a plethora of moves. No hidden power hurt it a bit, because you could run a hidden power that was like base 90 with Technician and just really clean things up. Yeah, it was just super good. Marini coming in as the second Poison type. Poison type, I think, is probably one of the worst types to double up again on, but I can sort of see why it's been done, because fighting types could be a bit of a problem for this team. Yes, you've got Boltoy further down the line, but your flying type doesn't resist it, and you really don't want to be using Ghastly as a fighting check. So it's not terrible here. It does give you that Toxic Spikes thing option. Toxic Spikes, not very great in Little Cup. 1 layer is pretty much as much as you need, but it's still something to think about. I've seen a Toxic Spike Skrulp get 5 kills before, so anything can happen. Elekid, great mon. It hits 20 speed. It can be physical, it can be special, it gets Volt Switch, it gets static. So you can come in on some of those multi-hit mons, that Minchino I keep talking about, a Berry Juice, they're going to need to hit you 3 or 4 times. That's a lot of chances for static. Litten, it's basically Baby Incineroar without being a Dark type, which is actually good for this team, because you don't want another fighting weakness. It gets Intimidate, it gets U-turn, I think it gets Parting Shot now, it gets Fire moves. It's a really nice glue mon. Shelmet, the Spiker, I like Shelmet. That's an unpopular opinion. Overcoat stops Spore leads against your spikers because Shelmet is very slow. Shell Armor stops crits. We all hate crits, so Shell Armor's best ability in the game. We got a second Levitate mon in Boltoy, which means that ground types, although your flying type is Swablu, which is not amazing, still a decent mon, it means that ground types really aren't going to give you that much trouble. Even though you have, like, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4... Oh, it's only 4 ground weakness. Well, 4 is still a lot, but you have 3 immunities and 2 resists, so you're doing fine there. Cacnea is a mon that I haven't drafted in a long time. It's slow, it's not very bulky, but it has 85 in both attacking stats. It gets spikes, it gets sucker punch, it gets water absorb, which means water types really aren't a problem for this draft. You've got Marini and Cacnea, 2 mons that can take water types hits very well. Then moving on to Swablu. Swablu's got really nice Spadef, decent enough defense. I think it gets Cotton Guard, which means that can boost that really nice. It gets a lot of coverage. I think it gets fairy coverage, fire coverage, it gets dual stabs. It's a mon that I think is really nice, but I've never used and I've never seen used really well. So I think this team could quite possibly be one of the best teams. The only thing is, like, you look at the core that I keep talking about, there's no fighting type on this team. That's the thing that lets it down the most, no fighting type. But you can make up for that. You've got a bit of fighting coverage splattered around. You've got Pawniard gets fighting coverage. You've got Elekid gets fighting coverage. I think actually that's it. Not the worst, but that's the one thing that lets this team down. Fighting rock, fairy, dragon, ice, the only types you're missing. They're all pretty irrelevant. Fairy, not irrelevant, but it's very hard to pick up, and it's not needed on this team. So I'm actually going to give this team a 9 out of 10. I think it's the best team we've seen so far. It's got mons that hit a good speed tier. It's got great pivots. It's got great hazard support. In terms of removal, it does have a spinner and a defogger. It's got a spinner that wants to come most weeks. Boltoy, phenomenal mon. Yeah, this is going to be a real struggle, and this is a team that I could see going a long way towards winning that championship. So we've got the second last team now, and while this is loading, it's going to load straight away. Oh my god. We've got Frozen and the Adelaide Thunderbolts, the other Aussie in the tier. Got a lot. He's an Aussie, so 10 out of 10. Just kidding. Looking at this team, it's an interesting one. Shelder, Scraggy, Alolan Grimer, Bronzor, Sandygast, all mons that I love. I think they're really phenomenal. Shelder is horrible to prep for. Skill Link, Ice School, Spear. Then you get like your water coverage, Shell Smash. It's base 100 defense, so yes, it's got 30 HP, 25 Spadef. If you get in on a physical attack, you can most of the time smash for free. It's kind of fast, so you need a pretty fast Scarfer to outspeed Smash Shelter. And to kill it, you generally need a pretty fast special Scarfer, which those are very rare. That is my phone. Let's turn that off. Yeah, so it's horrible to prep for. A lot of your prepping going into this team needs to come for Shelter. But then you got Scraggy, which is the best Dark type and one of the best fighting types in the tier. It has great bulk in 50, 70, 70 defenses. It's got 75 attack. It's got 48 speed, so it's slow, but it still outspeeds everything unscarfed after a Dragon Dance, which also it gets. It gets 3 phenomenal abilities. Intimidate and Moxie are the 2 you're going to be using most often, but Shedskin, that's a niche thing. If you want to be like a bulky, I think bulk up Scraggy is really nice against teams that don't have the best fairy coverage. So yeah, you can run like Scarf Moxie. Intimidate's really nice because you can come in and you can check a lot of physical attackers while setting up yourself, which is a really integral part of Little Cup. Then you go on to Alolan Grimer, which is another Dark type. This is why all these teams don't have Dark types, because Frozen's taken the 2 of the better ones. Jokes aside, though, it only has 1 weakness in ground. You have the next mon is a Levitate mon, which wants to come most weeks, and it's a defensive Levitate mon. So this mon can be sort of just left to be a blanket check. Poison Touch, Poison Jab, you're going to get poisons on a lot of things. You get knockoff, you get a whole bunch of coverage. It's a really nice glue mon to put on there each week. 80 HP with 50 defenses means you can live hits quite a bit. Yeah, it's just really nice. Bronzor, it's a rocker. It gets recycle. It doesn't do a whole lot with its 24 in offenses, if I'm being honest. Unless you're Gypsy and win and sweep someone with like an offensive Bronzor. Don't ask me how he did that. Yeah, this mon, it's just really nice and being able to just soak up hits. It is a psychic that's weak to fighting. And if you look at this so far, we don't have a fighting resist. Until we get to Cottony. Cottony is a part of the 4 mons that I didn't mention when going through and saying they're all mons that I really like. Cottony, Doduo, Zorua, and Carablast mons that I've never used. Well, I'll take that back. Doduo I used before last gen when it got Jump Kick and when it got Return. And it was phenomenal because you hit so much in the tier. Without those 2 moves, it runs Facade a lot. It's not great. Brave Bird's still nice. Don't think it gets U-turn. It's a bit meh, to be honest. It hits 18 speed, so that's nice for a flying type, but I think it's a bit overpriced. I probably should have lowered it this season, thinking about it, now that it just lost all those moves. But yeah, no, it's not the greatest. Cottony I want to do well, but it just doesn't have the best. I don't know. It feels like every time I use Cottony, everything has poison coverage. Everything gets poison jab or sludge bomb or like something to be able to just destroy Cottony. Yeah, it gets prankster shenanigans. It's not very fast compared to Whimsicott. It only hits 16 speed. Oh no, it does hit 17. I can read. But yeah, no, it's interesting. I'm not too sure on Cottony, that's why I'm not talking a lot about it. Zorua I have never used. I've never seen used well, but it looks really good in it looks really nice in theory. But it's also a 3rd dark type. Frozen, you don't need 3 dark types in a format where fighting is the best offensive type. Yes, one of them isn't weak, but looking at this team, we have neutral to fighting, weak to fighting, neutral, neutral, resists, neutral, neutral, resist, immune, neutral. So you've got a few, but Sandygast is basically the way that you check fighting types, because they all get poison jab, and Carablast isn't the best. Carablast runs Scuff, Mega Horn with no guard. That's its set. It gets some coverage moves. It's alright. It's pretty decent for a low tier pick. Sandygast, love the thing. And Slugma, it can be real cool. With weak armor shenanigans, it also gets like Earth Power. I've used it before. I've got a few kills. I've done like a little Slugma clean. It's a mon that your opponents probably aren't going to think about in prep, but it can come and can do some fun stuff. Yeah, so 3 dark types is just, yeah, it's not amazing. That's the thing that's really holding this team back for me. Also, it's speed tier. You have Doduo, and that's it for fast mons. You've got a few decent Scarfers, but Doduo not being the greatest mon, I'm not sold on this team. I think it's going to be the top 4 mons and going to need to do a lot of work this season for Frozen to make finals. Sandygast as well, throw that in there. I think that those top 4 plus Sandygast are going to come to a lot of games, and it's going to be really out of the last 5 months which one comes every week. That's what I can see. So I'm gonna score it a bit lower. We're gonna go a 7 out of 10, just because it's got good elements, but I can see it being a bit predictable. And you've just got too many dark types, dude. Yeah. So now we go on to the last team. And this is a team for Manbird, which I drafted. Manbird made 2 picks the entire draft on his own, and we dropped them, because he came to me and he's like, I lose a lot in Little Cup, teach me to draft a team. And I'm pretty sure I drafted him a better team than I drafted myself, which is not great. It's got Pony Diglett, Rufflet, Munchlax, Frillish, Axu, Lilip, Chingling, Tyrogue, and Wimpod. And yes, I know that I've been crabbing on about dark types this whole time, and I didn't draft Manbird one. I now see that, and I'm like, oh god, that's probably not great. Ideally, I did want Puchiana instead of Wimpod down the bottom, but we got sniped. Such is life. Wimpod's still a nice mon. I've seen Wimpod do way more work than it should. It was on that championship winning team that I briefly mentioned earlier. But yeah, going down, Pony and Diglett, super fast. Diglett hits 20 speed, it gets arena trap, you come in, you trap something, you kill it. It was horribly, horribly strong last gen when Z moves existed, and you could just Z ground something that you trapped, and it's like, okay, well, that's a kill, it's now a 5-on-6. But now it can run Sash, it can run Life Orb, you can run Band, because even though Band's bad in Little Cup, and, like, I say never run it, it does give the very slightest of boost to damage rolls from Life Orb, and it also keeps the illusion that you're Sash. So Diglett's probably the one mon that I'd recommend ever running Band on. You got Rufflet. If you hit your moves, it does so much damage. Munchlax, it sponges every special hit. There is like one relevant special fighting type, and that's Krogunk. And Munchlax gets ground coverage for it, so it gets Earthquake. So Spadef Munchlax, you get 130. It has the largest HP stat. It's got 85 Spadef. It gets Recycle with Berry Juice. Thick Fat to all those fire and ice types. To take some pressure off Frillish, which is your water type, which is still a phenomenal mon. Frillish, water absorb, so really good for Pony to Diglett, covering that weakness there. It's actually one of 2 water absorb mons, so water types really aren't going to give this draft too much trouble. It's a spin blocker. Scuff, Water Spout is an option. It can just be bulky. It gets Strength Sap now. It gets Will. It's great mon. Axu with Dragon Dance. As I said, as I've been saying this whole time, fairies are really rare. It's not super necessary. It's not a necessity to draft a fairy type like it is in standard. So you can run Mono Dragon move sometime, or you can like Dragon Dance and then click Outrage and claim a couple kills. It's really hard mon to prep for. It gets some nice coverage. Unfortunately, I don't think it got first impression. But yeah, it also gets Swords Dance if you're just going against a slow team, or you want to run Bulky Axu, which bulky is not too bad. 60 defense, pretty decent. Chingling, it's a Levitator. It stops that annoying ground weakness that we had going. Even though it's Rufflet, you don't really want to switch Rufflet in. So we've got our Psychic type. It's a bulky Psychic. It's got Levitate. Chingling's really good value for the points. Tyrogue, a fighting type. It's a spinner, so that we can keep hazards up. And we've got a spin blocker. I don't have a Defiant user. That's annoying that Rufflet doesn't get Defiant. If it got Defiant instead of Keen Eye, Mon would be broken on this team, and this team would be winning the championship. But yeah, Tyrogue with Guts with Rapid Spin, like Fake Out, Bullet Punch. Yeah, it doesn't get Mark. Actually, no, it does get Mark Punch. It gets like triple priority. It's a really nice low tier mod. And then Wimpod is a spiker. It gets Aqua Jet, it gets Scald. It's not the strongest mon, but it's fast and has spikes, and it has a Wimp out, so you take a hit and you switch out, and then you can come use it for death fodder later. Yeah, I think I've talked enough about this team. It is missing a dark type, so I do have to be objective and mark it down for that, like I have with everything else. But like speed tiers wise and just overall coverage wise, it's phenomenal. And I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10, which means that it ties for first place. So I'll just recap the top 3. We got Manbird, and we've just gone through that. I'm not going to recap it. We're going back to Alec, which is the second place team. These 2 teams are really close for me. This team's missing a fighting type, the other one's missing a dark. Both of those, if they had those, probably push it up to almost a perfect team. I really like both of them. This one, a little more hazard controlled than Manbird's. Manbird has just a little bit more like sheer power and speed tiers. Honestly, I want to see Alec versus Manbird, because I think that could be a real fun game. Do they actually play each other? Yes, they do, week 5. That'll be a game to look out for. And then in third place, we have someone from part 1. We have no And here's Kingdra. I think he's Kingdra's. Yeah, oh yeah, it did load. I don't know why I was waiting. We got the Abradrilba. I can't talk. We got the Abradrilba, Chinchou, Mankey, Trubbish team. This is a really nice team as well. But yeah, that's going to be it. I would go through the rest of the list, but yeah, so just a quick recap. Then after that, we've got in fourth, we got Parko and Tyler on 8 out of 10, fourth and fifth respectively. We got in sixth, we got Double A Silent and Ashra. I still don't know how to pronounce that. I apologize for butchering that. 7.5 out of 10. We got Yeezy, and then we got Frozen. Then we got Yeezy, and then we got Arvid on a 6 out of 10. Didn't rank myself, but that's going to be the 11 teams. Yeah, hopefully it's a good season. Don't join your games, get them done, and yeah, hopefully you enjoyed.